Building your personal brand is the biggest opportunity to make money in 2025. I know this myself because I built my personal brand to over 300,000 subscribers on YouTube and built multiple six-figure businesses on the backs of that. And with this exact personal brand, I used it to move out of California into Asia and created a brand new life filled with freedom, which allows me to work when I want, wherever I want, doing what I love with the people I want. Problem people have when it comes to getting into online business and even building their personal brand is that they often create content without having a real strategy to actually make money. So they'll just end up grinding for months and months with very little results, burn out and quit, and they're just convinced that just doesn't work. But the truth is, building a personal brand absolutely works. Every day you see another person become an influencer or build a following from scratch. So why not you? And I've even helped my clients go from their 9-to-5 jobs, start their following from zero to building it up into building six-figure businesses, even if they don't even have a big following. And what I want to do in this video is show you the steps that I've taken myself and I've also used to help my clients to build your personal brand and turn your content into a client generating machine. And you're probably thinking, oh, I can't do this because I don't have a big following. I don't know what to post, or maybe I'm just not an expert yet. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll see why none of that even matters. Because once you understand how personal branding actually works, you'll realize that you actually have everything you need right now to get started. Now, the first thing we are going to be covering is going to be your origin story. And this by far is going to be the most important aspect when it comes to actually making money online. Now, when most people are thinking about starting a personal brand, they typically are going to get stuck on the very first step because they get overwhelmed and they don't know where to start. They'll start thinking about things like, what do I talk about? What makes me different? Why would anybody listen to me? And the reason why they have all these negative thoughts that prevent them from just taking some kind of action is because they just don't have clarity on what they want to do and who they want to help. And they overthink, they hesitate, and they just get paralyzed in their own fear. So let me show you how to overcome these hurdles so that you can get started with building your personal brand today. The first thing you need to understand is this: people don't buy the coaching, they buy the coach. So what do I mean by that? So when you're watching my videos or any other person's videos, we're all kind of teaching the same thing. Personal branding, sales, marketing. I'm sure you have seen this before. But the difference for why some people get more views and other people don't get as many views is not because of the message itself, it's because of the messenger. And the messenger who's speaking and what credibility they have and their ability to communicate complex ideas in a very simple way matters very much. For myself, when I go on sales calls to potentially work with potential clients, a lot of the reasons for why they end up working with me is because they'll say, I watch a lot of the gurus and I see what they're doing, but I just like your style. You're more down to earth. You explain things in a very simple way. So I want to go for it, right? And the reality is, what I teach is nothing special. In that, there's many other people that teach the exact same thing. And even if somebody was watching this exact video, took everything I had and just regurgitated and created a new video, it doesn't mean that video is going to be more popular. Because when you blindly copy other people and you don't understand what elements are you really taking from? How do you get inspiration from it? And you're just like blindly copying, hoping you get the same results. It's just not gonna work, right? So that's why when you try to copy someone's thumbnails, their titles, and even the video itself, it just doesn't work because you are not them. So if you're trying to pretend like you're somebody else, you're not gonna be competitive because there's a better version of that. That's the person you copied. So instead of trying to be like everybody else, the best way to go is to be different. Because when you are perceived as different, automatically people perceive you as better. Whether or not that's true is another story, but at least you have their attention for them to want to watch you and they just be like, oh wow, that's different. I haven't seen someone from that perspective before, right? So imagine you had a whiteboard and you put your name in the middle of it and you have to ask yourself, who are you even, right? So it's, for example, who is Patrick Dang? What do I believe? What do I stand for? What are my unique experiences that other people just do not have? And how do I put all these things together and stack them in a way where you just cannot copy me even if you tried? And I'll tell you this from personal experience. The most powerful thing you can do is to keep telling your origin story over and over and over until every single person that watches your video knows everything about you and they know what you're about and your whole entire like story of how you got to where you are. I know for myself when I'm on the sales calls and people are thinking about joining our program, which is Founder X, where we help people build their personal brands and monetize their following essentially and build businesses out of it. The thing, they never remember the tips, right? So if it's like top 5 sales tips to like close anybody, they never remember a single tip. Never, right? No one's ever like brought it up in a conversation. But on that call, they'll always remember that I'm living in Asia. I used to work in tech sales. I left it all to travel the world, right? I built a YouTube following. Like, those are the stories that they remember. So let me give you an example in real time of how I'm actually using this origin story strategy, and you will see how you can do it for yourself. So a big part of my origin story is how I actually got started, right? So basically, I worked at a Silicon Valley startup. I worked at Oracle, basically left it all, moved to Thailand, didn't make any money, moved back in with my parents, and that's when I started making content seriously. So my origin story is like, I did all that stuff. Then I was at rock bottom, down to my last $200, trying to figure out how to make more money. Didn't want to get a normal job again. And so I just, got all this equipment from Amazon basically on a credit card and started making videos, right? And that's how I started. So I'm glad I took these pictures way back in the day so I can show you guys, years later of like where I actually started. This is my parents' spare bedroom. So when I show this picture to you guys, right, and I will integrate it in my different videos in very strategic ways, it creates this story, right? And it's a real story of how I actually get started. Because when you think about someone buying a program or a coaching or consulting or online course even, right? It's not really the how-to content that will get them to buy. That's part of it. It has to be there. But it's the story and how you package it that's going to be the most important. So who is this story going to relate to? People that also have 9-to-5 jobs, who also work a cubicle job, and they always have the dream to have freedom to travel and work whenever they want, wherever they want, right? Because that's actually my story. And that's what I wanted for myself to kind of escape that 9-to-5 grind. I'm going to relate to a lot of people who also face a similar challenges, but they're just kind of lost and they don't know where to really begin with this online journey, right? And so one tip I have for you is that whatever it is you're doing, especially if you're in the beginning stages, try to get video when you can, document it on your iPhone. Even these days, I bring my camera around everywhere I go just in case I can get a clip that I can use later, right? Also take pictures of your first setups, your first everything, first client, first coaching call, whatever it is, because those are going to be one of the strongest pieces of content that you can put out later on once you start finding your success. Because what you're really doing is showing people where you started, and you're showing them where you've gotten. You talk about the challenges you had on the way and how you overcame them. So when you meet your potential clients, they're going to see also like, oh, wow, Patrick was just like me. He was in a similar situation. It seemed like over the years, he figured it out. He built his YouTube following to over 300,000 subs. So he seems very credible, right? And that's the story you have to create for yourself in your own unique way. I have my personal story of how I did it, but you have to find your own, right? And when you have your own story that nobody can copy, that's when you become different. And remember, being different makes you perceived as better. So a couple tips I have for you when it comes to building your origin story. The first one is being authentic, right? So you need to make sure that the stories that you're telling are going to be extremely relatable. And a lot of times if you just tell them the truth of like what you actually did and the struggles you went through, chances are other people will also face similar challenges and it's just automatically relatable when it's real. The second tip I have for you is have an aspirational transformation, right? So if you ever think about like, let's say someone's selling fitness and there's like a before and after, someone's like fat and now they have a 6-pack, right? It's very dramatic and you can see like, oh wow, like I want to join that program because I want a similar result. So whatever it is you're selling, you also need that kind of, point A to point B transformation. And so for me, for Founder X, it's cubicle job, working a 9-to-5 to moving to Asia, building an online business, right? That's a dream that a lot of people want. And it's like a very obtainable dream as well with the way the world is moving. And here's the third tip I have for you, and that's unique positioning, right? This one's actually extremely important because information is a commodity and you want to be different by your positioning. So you want to use your unfair advantages, right? So for example, whether or not you're a male or female, because if you're a female entrepreneur and you're kind of like a, girl boss, right? You're going to attract a lot of people who want that lifestyle as well. But if you're a male, you can go another angle of like, hey, like I'm the man, I'm traveling the world, I'm getting girls, right? And a lot of people do take that route as well. And it does work because people aspire for those things. Your ethnicity matters, right? So for me, I am Asian American, right? So I'm Chinese and Vietnamese, and I was born in America. But because of my unique background, when I go to Asia, a lot of people relate to me because I look similarly to them. So you can actually use that to your advantage. But also because I speak English fluently, I'm an Asian person that was born in America, I can also relate to American people. So depending on who I'm talking to, I can play different cards to make myself more likable because people tend to like people who are similar to them. And I think a lot of times on the internet, people want to be like, everyone's fair, everyone's equal, and all this kind of stuff. But the way I look at it is there are strategic advantages that you can use. It could be by your physical appearance. So if you're like, just stunningly beautiful, or you're incredibly handsome, like make a YouTube video, like be on video. Don't just hide behind, written text, right? Or if you're just a really good writer and you're not that good in video, you're not as charismatic on camera, then focus on written, right? So it just depends on where your skill sets are at and use it to your advantage. Yeah, it's incredibly unfair because if you're just, born handsome, or you're just like beautiful and everybody like pays attention to you because you were born that way, then use it. Use it to your advantage, because whether people say it or not, people are using these advantages all the time in the workplace, whether you have a 9-to-5 job, whether you're doing online business stuff, it always being taken into account, whether subconsciously, and probably most people don't want to talk about it, but it is the reality of how the world works. Now, the next important part of building your personal brand is understanding your content pillars. So content pillars are basically topics that you generally want to be known for, and you just consistently talk about over and over and over and over. Now, it might seem redundant or boring that you're talking about the same things, but you have to understand not everybody's going to watch every one of your videos, right? Being known for something at least is better than being mediocre at many things. Now, there are exceptions. So people like Joe Rogan, for example, right? They can sit on a podcast for like 4 hours and talking to like different guests every day. I talk about aliens, the government, politics, fighting, So you definitely can mix in different things. But the thing is, not everybody's going to be Joe Rogan, and not everyone's going to be that interesting, right? Especially if you're doing YouTube videos where you're doing like talking head style, because not everyone's doing a podcast as well. So you have to understand, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Can you go for 4 hours talking on a podcast? And if not, well, can you do a 10-minute video that you script on YouTube, right? So understand those things. But typically for most people, you'll start with like 3 to 4 topics. Now, when you do have 3 to 4 topics, to make it more interesting and to spice up your content, what I like to do is call this sauce, right? So basically, if your core pillars are going to be the steak, you want to add some sauce on it, right? So some mushroom sauce or, blue cheese sauce, whatever. So the sauce is basically your passions, your interests, your hobbies, things you just like, okay? So it could be like gaming, anime, crypto, you're training to do MMA, right? Like you're not going to be talking about MMA in every video if you're doing a business channel, but can you include fighting metaphors or examples and relate it into business? Yes, you can. And that's how you make something unique and have a different perspective, right? I'll go more into that in a second, but one thing I do want to say is that you want to be careful about getting stuck in how-to content. So in the beginning of my YouTube career, I basically got majority of my following, especially the first 100K subs, through just how-to content. I would look at SEO, look at what people are searching for, like cold email, right? And I would say, okay, let me teach you some tips on how to write a cold email. The problem with that is that people go for you for tips and then they just never come back because they don't fall in love with you as a person. That's why I really emphasize the whole origin story thing, because that's what makes people want to watch every one of your videos. So the way I think about it is every video nowadays needs to feel like an episode in a season, where it's like something you want to watch every single week when we drop a video. Not, like I only want to watch this video when I want to learn how to code email. It's more like, I just want to know what Patrick's up to, and that's a whole different energy. And that's how you actually get your videos to go more viral and be more recommended. Because if you only go for how-to content, there's only so many people looking for how to write a sales script, how to write a cold email, and you're basically capped. But if you can get into YouTube's recommendations and you can use strategies to do that by your style of content and what you actually create, and making it more feel like episodes that YouTube can recommend, even though that person is not maybe interested so much in the topic, but they might be interested in just watching your video because of you, then you can go more viral, right? Long story short, just don't do how-to content all the time. Give more perspective, give more opinion, give more of your personal experiences, kind of like what I'm doing now, right? Because I'm sharing you my learnings, and it just provides a new, unique insight that other people aren't going to be able to have unless they did the same thing. It's just going to provide a whole different perspective and insight that other people just won't have. Now, when it comes to creating content, here's how I think about it, right? So in the middle, you're going to have the person. So personal brand, I'm going to use myself as an example to demonstrate how I do it so you can do it for yourself. So there's basically 4 elements that I look at right now. when you're crafting your personal brand. And what you want to do is you want to map this out before you start creating content so that you can know for sure if you're doing something unique. So for me, I look at this and I first say, okay, like what's my origin story? Well, 6-figure tech sales rep to entrepreneur, right? Moved to Asia, create a life of freedom. Now my mission in life is to inspire others. It's a very clear cut story that anybody can understand. And because I've taken pictures along the way, I can visually also show the progression of where I started here, as an employee. Then I went to trying to become a content creator for the first time. And then now I'm living life in Vietnam. So it's a clear from point A to point B transformation that a lot of people can actually relate to, right? Now let's go into the content pillars. What am I talking about? These days, personal brand and online business, right? Basically how to do what I just did. Sales and marketing are my bread and butter. So when people think about Patrick Dang, I want them to think like, oh, Patrick Dang is that sales and marketing guy. He's kind of cool. He's talking about how to build a personal brand and basically live this life of freedom, right? And I think as I show you different imagery and B-roll and the way I do photos and videos and what I show in my life, I want to emphasize that and continue to associate myself with those topics, right? Because branding is really just association, right? So if people think of Patrick Dang, do they think of sales, marketing, and freedom in online business? Perhaps, over time, that's the goal, right? Now let's go into the sauce, which I talked about, right? And so for me, there's a lot of things that I use to make myself unique. And these are things that I sat down to strategically think about. So if you go on my YouTube channel and you sort it by oldest, right? And you see the original videos that I've made, it's just how to sell this pen, how to sell this, how to sell that, 5 powerful sales questions. Okay. So these actually did extremely well. I mean, if you think about it, these are some of these have over 100K views, right? So it's not like I did a bad job. But at the time, the whole lifestyle and showing your personal life wasn't that popular on YouTube, especially for more coaches and consultants and educational creators. So how-to content was really good. And so you see, I never even talk about my personal life. And a lot of these videos I actually made in Asia and everyone thought I was still living in Los Angeles, right? And it was because I just, at the time, didn't want to show my life. I just kind of wanted to make these how-to videos. And then over time, the market evolved where everyone's doing how-to videos, right? Because this style is played out in a way. So what becomes more popular? It's when you show more of your personality, right? Now I still do how-to content, but you'll see even for these ones, they'll get less views. But then when I say how a personal brand will change your life, I'm trying to change it's paradigm shifting content where I make you believe it's possible that you can actually make money with a personal brand. So it's more aspirational. And even in these videos, if you go into it, it's what do I do in the beginning? Building your personal brand is going to be, obviously hook, intro, we a lot of crazy graphics, 2025, this is going to be your year, right? Then I use other examples of famous people who built their personal brands to build billion-dollar companies. So it just proves that, yeah, it's real. Personal branding is a thing, right? And then what do I do on top of that is I'm going to strategically add B-roll, which because I carry my camera everywhere I go nowadays, whether I go on vacation, whether it's New Year's, people playing fireworks, it doesn't matter. I will bring my camera all the time. Even if I don't use it, I always have it ready, right? So I'll show my cubicle, right? Transformation from point A to point B. This was, New Year's, right? Over in Vietnam. So it's like I'm showing that life, And then also when I went on a trip to Munay in Vietnam, which is the beach basically, right? I brought my camera there to show you this is how I'm actually living. And so it's not like I'm randomly putting these clips in. I'm strategically creating a before and after visual story, putting this on top of what I'm talking about to make it even cooler, right? And it's really to create a strong association of what I'm about. And what am I about? What we were talking about earlier, it's freedom, sales, marketing, how to build an online business, that kind of stuff, right? And so that's why I, use it to my advantage. That's why you'll see a lot of the B-rolls will be me traveling and stuff because that's really how I live. I'm also Asian American, like I was mentioning. That plays a key role because a lot of people that actually enroll in the program are also Asian. They're Asian, right? Whether it's from Asia or Asian American, Asian Canadian, whatever, right? It does play a factor. Now, I do sell to everybody else too, but I do notice that when I'm talking to an Asian person, they feel a connection that maybe they won't get with another person because there's slight cultural differences, right? And, if you didn't know, if you're from California and you talk to any Asian person, I would say based on my personal experience, an Asian American person, 90% of their friends are probably Asian. That's just how it works, and, there's probably a lot of reasons for why that is, but that's just culturally how things go. Fitness and fighting is a big part of, what I do as well, especially now I'm training pretty hard in boxing. I remember someone left a comment, they were like, oh, Patrick is a narcissist. He's showing his six pack. I'm like, well, I work hard for it. I train and I want to inspire other people. Like, why wouldn't you want to be fit? Right? Like, what? You know? And so for some people might say negative things about me online and, oh, he's just showing that because he wants to show off. Okay, cool. But there are other people that look at that and are like, damn, like, dude, like he's killing it, right? Online business, looking good, all that kind of stuff, right? Swimming with the sharks, you know? Especially other things like crypto, anime, gaming, streetwear. And I'll try to like lightly incorporate these things into the way I dress, maybe sometimes what I put in the background and all those kinds of things, right? So it adds a little sauce. Now, the last piece here is going to be credibility. You don't want to like be a fake person. You don't want to play a character online because it is exhausting. It does work, right? There's definitely a lot of influencers out there that do play a character. But in my personal opinion, authenticity right now is at an all-time high. So if you're an interesting person and you're just that person online, people will just naturally connect with it from my experience, right? So I mean, all the things I talk about and the stories I tell are real, right? I was a Silicon Valley rep, you know, started my own business, right? I created 2 successful YouTube channels in 2 completely different niches. So that means I know how to create content and get followers, right? And monetize them. And yeah, I would say I'm doing pretty well in Vietnam, right? And so, you know, I see me and my girlfriend celebrating the New Year. So it's like, you know, it's not like I'm the most successful. There are definitely people who are more successful, more status, more money than me, more everything. There's always someone better, but I think I did okay, right? And so for people that are looking to do something similar to what I've done, well, you know, they can look at me as a guide in a way, or advisor, or a mentor in some capacity, or a coach, right? And maybe they would want to enroll in some of my programs because they want to build an online business too. And so because I have these unique stories and these unique experience, and I've actually done the things that I'm talking about, it just gives me so much more credibility when I'm selling something. And it's not even that I have to be the best anything. It's not like I'm the best salesperson in the world or I'm the best content creator in the world. I'm probably not. There's probably people who are better than me. But when I mix all these things together and stack them in a way that's unique to me, you know, you become that niche of one, right? I talk about that a lot, where like if you're looking to build a personal brand, build a YouTube channel, and use LinkedIn, and you want to live somewhere in Asia or in another remote place and still build an online business, right? And you want to do coaching, consulting, or selling services, or maybe an info product one day, you know, like all those kinds of pieces. And then you want your videos to also look very aesthetic and cool, right? There's not many people who are doing all those things like put together, right? And so that's how I kind of differentiate myself from other people, you know? So now that we understand creating content, I'm going to talk about something very important, and that is creating an offer. Even if you get views, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna be making money. There's a lot of people that get views and make no money, okay? And there's a lot of people that don't get a lot of views and they still make a lot of money. So how's that possible? It's all about creating a really good offer. Now, a lot of people at this point, they're like, oh, I've already read the book, $100 million offers, right? I know what an offer is. And if you don't know what that book is, don't worry about it. But long story short, people believe they know what an offer is, but they won't be making any money. So that indicates they actually don't know, and their ego is getting in their own way. So let me kind of explain it to you in a way where I teach it to my clients in the most simplest way, even if you don't know anything about internet marketing. To me, when it comes to creating a good offer and defining what it is, it's just answering 2 questions. The first is, what are you selling? And the second is, who are you selling it to? That's all it is. It's very simple. So if you said, I'm selling a coaching program, you know, to help people generate more sales if they are a sales rep, so they can be the top 1% salesperson at their company and make multiple 6 figures. Okay. So, and who am I selling it to? Sales reps that are ambitious and they're willing to invest money to become number 1 and make a lot of money. Right? So that could be an example, right? I'm not saying it's going to be the best offer in the world, but you're actually clear on who you're going after. Now, when you have an offer like that, what ends up happening is you have more clarity on the type of content you should make, because your content essentially attracts your ideal customer, right? So I'll give you an example for myself, which is probably more relevant. So our offer right now is Founder X, right? So it's like a coaching program combined with an info product put together, okay? So it's just like a yearly membership where people learn how to build their personal brands, get coaching, get help, and get community support so that they can basically build their following and monetize and continue to scale their business similar to what I've done, right? Now, if that is my audience, who am I going after? There's a couple people. It could be people who have a 9-to-5 job who are in the beginning stages of wanting to build a personal brand, right? And it's even better if they have high income skills, because they can take those skills, talk about it online like I did with tech sales, and they will be able to make money very quickly, right? That's something I've realized. Another demographic might be people who do coaching or consulting or provide some kind of service, but they've only been relying on referrals. So if it's only referrals, they need to build an online presence, but they don't know anything about creating content. Perfect fit for me because they have money to spend. And also, They don't know how to make content. So I can basically teach them how to do that to help them easily make more money, right? So there's a couple of examples. Now, because I know who my audience is, when I am making this type of content, I'm making it directly for you. So if you're watching this video, shout out to you because I made it for you, right? And if you watch all the way to this point, that means the content is resonating because you feel like it's bringing you value, and it probably is, right? Because it's probably opening your mind to what's actually possible so that you can make a higher income for yourself. Now, when it comes to offer creation, a very important part is going to be pricing. Because once you figure out what you're selling and who you're selling it to, pricing is usually the next step. I'll tell you what not to do because I've tried a lot of different things. I've sold things at low ticket from like $10 to $20. I've sold subscriptions for $97. I've sold courses for $300, $500, and then high-end coaching for like thousands of dollars, right? And I'll tell you which one I think is the easiest, especially if you're starting out. The first is I would not recommend doing subscription services that are on a monthly basis at low ticket. So if you notice like a lot of people doing Skool, for example, right? And I also host my community on Skool as well. I've tried doing like $97 a month. The problem with that is like, let's say you get on the phone, you sell someone for $97, cool. Next month they might pay, next month they may not pay. So then, you did all that work for $200 and then it's like they're gone and you have to get another customer. But then if you're getting on the phone with somebody and you're only making like $100, $200, it's just not worth it because you don't know when they will churn, right? Of course, you keep them longer, great, amazing, right? But a lot of times it's very hard to do that, especially if you're starting out because you got to make the content, you got to do fulfillment, you got to make the course, but you got to do so many different things, especially if you're working alone. So I would not recommend that at all because it's like how many people you need to sell to make 10K a month, right? A lot. It's about 100 people. So the easiest way, in my opinion, is just to go high ticket because the paradigm shift that has happened over the past couple years is that has become very normalized for everyday regular people to spend thousands of dollars on coaching. In fact, it's almost a flex to do that. People brag like, oh, I just paid a bunch of money to hire a, vocal coach or whatever it is, right? And there's some pride in that because they're saying like, I'm the type of person that invests in my skill set so that I can become a better person, And this is a phenomenon. Like when I started YouTube 5 years ago, it wasn't the case. But nowadays it's like, yeah, dude, everyone will buy high ticket, even if they don't know anything about internet marketing. It's just more normalized, right? And even if someone's not sure and they're going to be like, oh, like I've never spent so much on coaching, if you're providing enough value, they will be convinced to buy, right? So that's like a cultural phenomenon that I think everyone should take advantage of in that you're providing value, but also you're getting paid high prices. So you better provide a premium service, right? Now for price points, if you're charging, let's say high ticket, right? And so when I say high ticket, let's call it like 2 to 10K. Okay. So some people, when I work with my clients, a lot of times I recommend them start with like 2 to 3K just so they get their foot in the door with like selling something expensive, which is really on the lower end side, which they have to kind of build up into like 5K and higher. But let's say, 3K. If you get one client per month, that's like 3K revenue. If you get 5 of them, that's 15. If you get 10, that's 30K. And that's kind of crazy, right? Especially if you're coming off a 9-to-5 job, because like what job is paying you like 30K a month, right? Unless you're like a really highly paid sales rep or you're, working at Google as a project manager or something, right? Then you maybe could. But for a majority of people, they're not at that level. But the thing is, you can make that much money. And is it reasonable to get like, 1 to 5 clients a month? I don't see why not, because that's just like closing one person a week, right? Every 5 days, close one person, then you're making, like 10 to 15K, right? And you might be thinking, is it that simple? It is. It actually is, But if you kind of do the math even further, let's say it was 5K, right? Like one client's 5K, 5 clients would be 25, 10 would be 50, right? And then it depends on what you're selling, right? If you're selling like more of a yearly membership where it's like a fixed fee, like 3K to 5K, yeah, this math kind of makes sense. If you're doing more of an agency kind of route where you're getting a paid retainer plus percentage of revenue, then you would have to use a different calculator, right? But I just kind of want to show you this as a basic example to help you understand the value of not having to sign so many clients to make pretty decent money that can basically replace your job. And there are some people that will teach having different pricing tiers, right? So for example, they'll be like, oh, you got to have a lower ticket, like $1,000, then $5,000, then $10,000, right? Now, here's my personal opinion on that. It does work, but the problem is that it's very hard for a beginner to pull off. Because like each one of these products is like a whole different business in a sense, right? So for a beginner, I would actually recommend just one avatar, one product at basically one price point, and one source of lead generation and one way to close. Just one way of doing everything and just repeat that over and over and over and over. And that will actually make you a full-time living just doing, that one system. Once you get good and you want to do different things, like you want to run ads and you want to like liquidate ad costs and you want to have a mastermind and you want to make more money off of each, increase lifetime value, all that kind of stuff, right? We're not going to go too deep into that. Then it makes sense to do all that. But if you're like literally starting from zero, or you're just in the beginning stages and you're struggling to get clients, keep it simple, focus on one of everything, and then that will take you extremely far. And once you get to that point, then you'll understand what to do when it comes to building out your whole product suite. But if you're struggling to get clients, don't even think about that. So if you enjoyed this video and you're really interested in building your personal brand, you want to check out my next video, which I put a link in the description, where I'll show you why building a personal brand is the best business model for 2025 that you can do compared to everything else, whether it's Amazon, Shopify, affiliate marketing, trading even, right? Why is building a personal brand going to be the most profitable and most reasonable for you to start making income right away without having to invest much money? So check that link in the description and I will see you in the next one.